Hi, Clint Kuhns here with Anderson Business Advisors, and in this video we're going to discuss how to protect your personal residence. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here's the deal. I get this question all the time. Clint, how do I protect my personal residence from creditors if I get sued? Well, you have to be strategic about it. It's not like how we structure general real estate investments, okay? When we get complicated with corporations, LLCs, holding LLCs, and moving things around and partnerships involved. That doesn't work for your personal residence. Because with a personal residence, we have to be sensitive to certain things. Number one, homestead exemption. Now, what is a homestead exemption? Well, every state provides some level of equity that a creditor couldn't take from you. If you lived in Florida and you had a personal residence in Florida, here's my property, and I had $800,000 in equity, and someone came after me and they get a judgment against me for $1 million. They can't touch that property. And that's why OJ still lives in Florida, because they can't take his house from him. Now, if he sells his house and he converts the equity in his property to cash, well, that's a different story. Now, some states don't give you this unlimited homestead exemption. They may say, well, you could have $800,000 equity, but you only get $10K. That is, if a creditor goes after this asset and they sell it at auction, you get $10K, creditors get $790,000. And you just look at that and you're going, well, that's not fair. They can take my house from me. I want some protection. I get it. So what do? Well, one way to protect your personal residence, I tell people, is to understand where that lawsuit's typically going to arise from. Our residence is going to be put at risk because of something that we do personally. So you're out there and you're involved, let's say, in a car accident. You own this house. So somebody is going to sue you. They're not suing your house. They're going after your house because they get a judgment against you for $1 million and they want to collect on this. So then they're going to go after an asset that appears in your name. And so when a creditor is now looking to collect, they're trying to figure out what real estate is your name attached to. And sometimes they don't even try to take the house from you. All they do is record the judgment in the county where your property is located, and the judgment now attaches to your personal residence. So if you try to refi or sell, they know they're going to get paid. Worse yet, many of those judgments will grow at 10% statutory rates of interest. I mean, that's a great investment for somebody. Just keep that judgment on an individual, and as they're paying their mortgage down, you're building more equity for your creditors. So that's an issue. And how do we go about protecting that then? Well, the first thing is we want to get the property out of your name. So what I like to do is create a land trust here, land trust, and use a nominee trustee. Okay, remember in some of my other videos, I talk about using a Wyoming LLC as a trustee over here. Why am I going to do this? Because when I take my property and I deed it out of my name into this type of structure, let's say the name of this LLC is D10 LLC. So, and the name of this trust is Green Thumb Trust. So title now would read as follows: D10 LLC Trustee of Green Thumb Trust. All right, I just truncated that down there. So that's how title's going to read. It used to be in my name, Clint, but now it's no longer in my name. Now it's in the name of a trustee in the name of this trust. So if I was sued personally and a creditor obtains a judgment against me and they take that judgment and they record it in the county where they think I reside, what's going to happen is that judgment will attach to any real estate my name appears on. You see what I just did though? I took the property out of my name, put it into this trust, so that property no longer appears in my name, so that judgment doesn't stick to it. So what does that do for Clint? Well, it gives me the ability then to sell that property and not have a portion of those proceeds taken out of escrow and paid to my creditor. All the proceeds would come to the trust, so I would have free access to them. If I can find a lender who's really willing to refinance the property in the name of the trust, I can refinance that property without having to pay that creditor off. So the land trust gets the property out of your name, puts it in a vehicle that you're no longer associated with, so judgments don't attach. So that's the first step in protecting your personal residence. Move it out of your name. If you live in an unlimited homestead exemption state, I would still use this strategy. Why? Because when you sell that property, if you want to move to another one and you live in, say, Florida, the problem is once that becomes cash, if they find out about it, they can go and garnish your account and get that cash because it's in your personal name. So we want to always keep it out of our personal name. So the second step in this overall structure is you could take your beneficial interest in the land trust, if you so desire, and create a second LLC down here. This is going to be a disregarded LLC. What do I mean by that? A disregarded LLC does not file a tax return. I'll typically set this up in Wyoming. So now I'll take my land trust and have my land trust held by the Wyoming LLC, just like that. So I've got a different LLC as a trustee. The beneficial interest is this other LLC over here. Now, does anybody know about this? No one knows about it because it's all private. All the transfers with the trust itself, this does not hit a public record because it's not recorded anywhere. The only two entities that are recorded are these two. The only one that the public's going to see is this one because it's tied to the property as a trustee. They don't know about this one down here. Why would you do that? Well, you're going to be the member of that limited liability company. And in a lawsuit, if somebody gets a judgment against you, one of the things they may do is bring you into a debtor's exam, supplemental proceedings, and they're going to ask you, what do you own? Do you own a personal residence? Well, in this example here, how would I answer that? How would you answer that? Do you own a personal residence? If you're saying yes, look at the diagram here. The personal residence, the house is owned by what? The trust. It's not owned by you. So if they ask me, do you own a residence? My answer is no, I do not own a personal residence. Where do you live? I live in a property located here. Do you own that? No. Do you have any ownership interest indirectly in it? Well, the answer to that is no. Well, you'd have to probably say yes. Well, how is it held? Well, it's held through a limited liability company. Oh, so now they start unraveling. They find out you have an LLC. So now what they need to do is this. They need to figure out a way to break the LLC in order to get to your property. Now, is this scenario here bulletproof? Not quite, because the argument they could use to break the LLC is that your LLC is a business entity. It holds an asset that you're living in. You're not paying rent, so you're not treating it as a business activity. Therefore, it lacks substance. And that's a legitimate argument. But how many creditors are willing to spend the time and the money to go through that process? How about if you could offer them this? Listen, you can try to fight this, and I'm going to fight you all the entire way going against it, or we could settle. Take my policy limits. Maybe I'll agree to give you a little bit more, and we go our separate ways. So what this is doing is putting some of the bargaining power back into your hands that prior to that, when you have all the assets in your own name, it didn't exist. Now, if you want to take it one step further or not use this and use one other technique, then you could always utilize what's called a friendly lien. Okay, or you get an equity line of credit against your house. You go to the bank and have them file an equity line of credit, get a HELOC. There's two ways to do this. Get a HELOC on your property or a friendly lien. And all that's doing is taking the equity out of the property. So if somebody does look at the property, they see that you've got this house and the fair market value of the house is $900,000, but you have debt on it of $900K. So there's no equity. So even if you wanted to go after my house, you would never get paid. So it's not even worth your time. Again, take my policy limits and go away. So it gives you bargaining position. If you're not familiar with the friendly lien strategy, check out my zero loss real estate strategy on my channel, where I talk about how you can take real estate and make it seem extremely unattractive to a creditor. And that's why I call it my zero loss strategy, where I discuss it in depth. But this is how I typically strategize for protecting personal residences.